welcome to this Saturday talk. I would introduce Mr. Raghunath Iyer, who's today's speaker. I first met him uh, when on my very first day in IIT Bombay, and that's good, some 50 years back, 1976. And I'll tell you, I found him a strange person, and I'll tell you why I found him strange. If I read out his biodata from a website, which is WRCS, Wildlife. Correct me if I'm wrong. What is Wildlife Research, Raghu?
Yeah, Wildlife Research and Conservation.
Research and Conservation Society. So he is a trustee there. And if I read out the biodata, you will know that he is really a strange person with so many different qualities. We try to do well in one area, but he's done so well in so many areas. So let me read out. By education and profession, Mr. Iyer is an electrical engineer who became a computer scientist from IIT Bombay. He is one of those lucky ones who have not been sucked into the IT industry. He is actively involved in product designing, combining hardware and software that have touched many users. Mr. Iyer is a versatile individual and indulges in a bit of everything, ranging from masonry, carpentry, plumbing, fixing iPods, and even camera lenses. He has a toolkit ready for all occasions that keeps the DIY, do it yourself streak alive in him. Mr. Iyer manages to wriggle out of his super busy life to indulge in bird watching, trekking, photography, and cycling. His keen interest in wilderness takes him to various places, and he wishes to do his bit in keeping the pristine nature unspoilt. Mr. Iyer is well versed with South Indian classical music, plays the veena and piano. Food is very intrinsic to our living, he admits, and has listed several mouth-watering recipes on his blog. For a glimpse of his multifaceted mind and life, you may want to visit a blog written by him. Let me tell you, a person who's well versed in so many areas: product design, combining hardware, software, wildlife, bird watching, photography, trekking, do it yourself and tinkering, classical music, and above all, being a foodie, and he may be cooking many things himself. So, these are so many areas, and maybe there are some of them are not listed here. So he is really a strange person with so many good qualities. So today I invited him to talk to us and let us know on the work that he is on the field that he really has been that has been his career. The other stuff is something which he will make his career after he retires, but I do not know when that will happen because he still works very hard in his office and doesn't find time probably Monday to Friday. But all the others, if I have to find something about photography, I call him up. Something about lenses, something about what features I should use or what settings I should use. If I have to put up a solar panel on the rooftop, I ask him. He has written a big blog on solar panels, and how to build a perfect what you call your own electrical power, so that you are either free from the grid completely or you are giving back to the grid. We recently met. We had a get together, and his knowledge about classical music actually surprised me. I knew that he knew classical music, but he knows it so much I did not know. So stopping here, because there are so many things I can talk about him, many things I do not even know. I would ask him to get into it and tell us something about this net security. Over to you, Raghu.
Welcome all, and thanks, Harish, for giving me this opportunity to talk about cybersecurity. It's a subject that's dear to my heart because I think there's a lot to be done uh, to keep ourselves safe. And when I say ourselves safe, it's not just us as individuals, but the surrounding around us. And also, I hope through you, I'll be able to communicate and uh, ensure this knowledge goes to other people and they can benefit from it. And then hopefully we make the world a safer place to be in. So the way I'm going to do this is uh, instead of just walking through slides one after the other, I have places where I would like to stop and ask participation from the audience. And I know that all of you are net savvy, so I expect that you'll still be able to voice your questions, voice your answers without stumbling on each other. So when I ask for responses, maybe you can unmute yourself and then speak out and then mute yourself back. There'll be about a couple of places where I'll ask you to do that. This is so that it's interactive and it's not just a one-way flow of information. Okay, so let me begin with my presentation. Just okay, I'm going to share my entire screen. Hopefully, you guys can see it properly. I will just go into. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, sir, we
Hello?
can see. We can
Yeah,
see.
we
Sir.
can see. Yeah.
We can see it.
Okay. I will not put it into presentation mode. I'll just keep it maximally expanded so that you can see better. Yeah. So, you know, as our lives become more digital, we have way more things to secure than before. Previously, we might have had a single computer to worry about, but now, I mean, there's a plethora of things that we interact with on a daily basis, and all of these are quote unquote vulnerable. So you have assets on the cloud. When I say assets, they might be data, they might be virtual machines, they might be servers that you are using third party, your own, etc. on the cloud. Then, of course, you have email. Your email can get compromised. It might be a email that your company runs, or it can be even email that is normal third-party email like Gmail and such, where you get content that is malicious. You have your laptops and your desktops that can get compromised, your Android and iOS phones that can get compromised. Devices are becoming smarter and intelligent, and everybody today has some or the other digital communicating device like a smart TV, a CCTV camera, maybe, smart refrigerators, smart lights, smart everything. And everything that is smart is vulnerable. You have printers that can also be vulnerable. And some of you might wonder why these devices are need to be secured. Anybody wants to make a guess as to why these need to be secured? I mean, these computers one can understand, the phones one can understand, but why do we need to worry about printers and smart TVs, and why do we need to worry about securing them? Anybody wants to take a guess? Anybody wants to quote some example?
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. This is Preetam Yadav.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I am sharing my real incident with you. Since this is festive season, so in my building we have one music system wherein we have connected. Whomsoever with the member of the thing, so they are connecting their phone to the music system to play the song. So by one person connecting, after the connection, after 1 hour, everybody like if I am connected my phone to that magic system, after 1 hour I am started getting spam call, and whatever connects I have in my mobile, they are also getting spam call. So this is a real
Yeah.
incident there for yesterday.
So anybody else wants to volunteer some information? Okay. So, you know, a few years back, there was a outage of the internet on the east coast of America. And when that outage took place, almost uh, entire region in that east coast could not access many websites, Amazon included, Reddit, news magazine sites, and so on and so forth. And the attack happened because of CCTV cameras deployed in the public space, such as streets. About 500,000 CCTV cameras had been taken over. And when I say taken over, they were running malware. And with the help of that malware, the 500,000 CCTV cameras were used to bring down attack by using what is called as a denial of service attack on common internet infrastructure in that region. One of the key internet infrastructures that's needed for the internet to work reliably is called a domain name server. It's called a DNS server. And that is the one that helps your computer to reach a website when you type the name. If that name resolution itself is brought down, effectively you're denied access to the internet. So these 500,000 CCTV cameras were exploited, and they were in turn turned into small bots that were used to launch attack on the DNS infrastructure, denying internet access to many people. Anything that runs software is actually a target, is a subject for being exploited. So similarly, in your office, in your home, you could have CCTV cameras, you could have smart TVs, smart music systems, smart speakers. All of these are vulnerable because all of them are running software. Today, most of them are connected to the internet, and they have software that, and we will see sometime down later, that can be exploited, and we are not aware of them. We are not keeping track of them. So I list this these kind of devices, printers. Apparently, no user is working on them. Apparently, nobody is plugging USB sticks into them. Apparently, nobody is sitting and browsing from them. So how can they get attacked? But they are vulnerable. They are prime targets. So many attacks have taken place by using these as launch pads. So you have to secure more than ever before. So think of the number of IP connected devices that you have in your house, and then think of them in your office. All of them need to be secured. So similarly, we talked about hard assets, then you have soft assets. You have internet websites that you have created, your blogs, you have various digital portals that you run for your personal purposes or your company is maintaining. Those are all targets for getting compromised. You're using applications like online applications, but sometimes your own applications are hosted. Your own developers write software that is hosted publicly, and then those can become vulnerable. Think of your net banking site. The net banking is exposed to so many millions of users. If that software is insecure, you can imagine what can go wrong. Then, of course, you have your servers in your server room, you have databases, customer data, your own employee data. All of these need to be secured. So the list of digital content and devices that need to be secured is enormous. We are just not conscious of them. And we take things for granted as everybody around us is good. And then we tend to do lip sympathy to securing them. And then finally, there is this big network that connects all of them together. And these networks span across the globe. So nobody is today isolated. And this network that connects is both a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing, it allows connectivity, it allows you to reach out across the globe, but it also brings in a lot of possible compromises. Okay, so the next slide is I'm going to pose a few questions on what do you think are the most common type of breaches. So maybe you want to talk, somebody wants to say which ones they think are the most common out of this lot in current times. Yeah, and the answer can be more than one.
Data theft and financial
Financial
loss.
loss, yeah.
And what was it, let's say 20 years back?
Application corruption. Yeah, reboot and application corruption.
Right? So we have moved on, right? So you can see that previously when attacks took place, the thing that you lost, your computer stopped working, you had to reboot your computer, maybe you had to reformat it, maybe you had to reinstall the application, maybe you had to reinstall the operating system. The damage at that time, we felt the damage was significant for those days. But now in retrospect, that damage is insignificant compared to the damage that is happening nowadays. Today's damage is you lose data. A, you don't have, somebody takes your data away. B, somebody takes that data away and you don't have access to the data. And then C, on top of that, you possibly have financial consequences now. Consequences are, of course, you may have direct financial loss, but you may have indirect financial loss in terms of liability. So your data might be posted publicly. Your data might be, there is a leak, there's a theft, and the data that is stolen may be some of your customers' trusted assets that you are supposed to safeguard. And that is now made available publicly, or the threat that they will make it available publicly, unless you, settle financially in some manner. So there can be financial loss directly, where the organization loses money, and there can be implied financial loss, and there can be pure data loss, which in turn can mean financial loss. So the last two, the last three, I mean, and there could be other forms, but I'm saying data theft, data loss, and financial loss is becoming more and more. And do you think these are targeted, or do you think these are, it happens to anybody?
financial be targeted as well?
So when I say targeted, let me rephrase that. Do you feel that somebody is making very determined effort to bring a particular company or a particular individual, or you think this is random? You think that some people are always vulnerable and some people are not?
Yeah, it's a random only.
Okay.
Many times the
So,
attacker may be browsing through or searching through the public database, and by chance or by random he may be getting somebody's data.
yeah, that he gets somebody's data, but then he might not get access to all your data. But then at some point, for example, you must have heard lots of ransomware stories, right? Have
Yes.
people heard of ransomware stories?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So, how do they become victims of ransomware?
A malicious software gets installed, and that can lock out the complete data. The actual user, genuine user, cannot access it.
And why does that malicious software get installed? Is it because the people are not running antivirus software?
They access the unsecured
Oh.
websites, maybe.
Yeah, you clicked
Yeah.
on
Yeah,
you
secure
clicked on
websites.
some unsecured websites. You clicked on some links which are not to
Phishing
be.
links, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you know that this is an unsecure website? And even if you clicked on an unsecure website, why should, I mean, I'm sure everybody is running antivirus software these days, or you think they are not?
Yeah, many people are not running antivirus. Secondly, if there is no HTTPS, one should not go to that website. Number 3, you should not be logging in from an unknown internet browser or a Wi-Fi provider.
Okay. So all of these are fair, but why does the attack still take place? I mean, at the end of the day, if people are knowing these, you still have attacks happening, right? So we'll come to this. We'll come to this topic a little later. I have some examples to take you through. So we do see that attacks take place. We hear of a number of places where attacks are taking place. We just now heard that you must not go to insecure websites, and one of the suggestions made was it should have HTTPS. It's an interesting thing because it tells me what people consider that HTTPS will secure them from. Okay. So let's move to a couple of other data points. So today, small, medium businesses are increasingly becoming targets for ransomware, yet only 34% test their backups regularly. And 30% of phishing emails are opened, and 12% of targets click on the link or attachment. So you're not supposed to click on links, and yet we see 12% of targets click on a link or attachment. 30% of phishing emails are opened, right? So what happened? So people still, despite knowing all of this, and I'm sure we have talked about all of this amongst our circle of people and so on, but at the end of the day, we still fall victims. So we fall victims, and then once we commit this crime of clicking on unnecessary links or opening unnecessary attachments, shouldn't the malware not get in? Shouldn't it be denied entry? What can be done to deny entry? Right? So some of you said that antivirus is not run. Why would people not run an antivirus? Anybody wants to answer that?
Due to reluctancy.
Pardon?
It costs.
Pardon?
Due to reluctancy.
Okay.
It costs money. It costs time spent.
Why time? It costs money. It costs very trivial money compared to the money that you lose, right? When you get locked out.
Many people don't even bother to get into buying software even if they have the money. ठीक है, we will see.
Sometimes they will install some antivirus which slows down the system, so they get a bad opinion about antivirus.
Good one. So antiviruses slow down your system.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't deny that, and there are reasons why that happens. But today is not the day to talk about that. But yes, some people stay away from antivirus because of this. But we will see later what ideally should be done. In your opinion, is antivirus sufficient? Let me ask that. What's the prime tool that you will use to safeguard your equipment?
Whatever present in the equipment itself.
How will you safeguard your, your printers and your CCTV and your smart TV? Can you run antivirus on them?
No, it's only on our laptop.
Now, what do you do about these?
Nothing.
Okay. Anybody wants to counter that?
See, in the antivirus package, there is something called Internet Protection Package,
Right.
which will which will prevent entry or kind of hacking or kind of malware through the net.
Okay.
Just giving a broad
That's
idea.
fine. So that kind of protects your endpoint, right? At the end of the day, it extends your protection a little more, but it doesn't protect your other devices, right?
You're right.
Okay. So, antivirus is the most popular thing that people know about, and yet some people do not run it. But you will see later what are better recommendations. Okay. So, the threat landscape is riddled with most of this. This is what happens. So today, the most common attack vector is actually via social engineering. It is phishing scams. Now, most of you will say, hey, I know that Nigerian scam. I know that email when I look at it, that this is something that I must not click. But it would be naive to think that the malware propagators are still living in those old type of phishing attacks. Malware ransomware attackers have become far more sophisticated, right? They do what is called as spear phishing, and spear phishing is a way of sending you an email which is very much something that you will trust. As an example, let's say you're looking for a VP of engineering to be brought into your organization. The HR person receives an email from Naukri or from some headhunter that the person is familiar with, and it says, here's a resume. This resume for your VP of Engineering is a very interesting resume. Please consider the candidature. Chances of the HR person not clicking that email and opening the attachment and calling back the person who sent that email are very low. They will 99% click and open. They are expecting something to happen. They got something that matches their expectation. They click. They are unable to decipher that email that they are seeing is actually not a valid email. So here's something that I will I'm jumping forward. Okay. Now this is most commonly, all of you have seen this kind of an email, right? How many of you, when you see this email on the from side, read this entire email address carefully? Do you read it always? Can you see that email address properly first in your email client?
Yeah. So anything to do with payment, I look at this address, and it says service at, meaning, somebody who's not Australia.com, PayPal. He's not PayPal Australia. He's somebody else. So there's something before the.
But can you see this email address in your email client?
Yeah, I think so.
I possibly, I don't think everybody can see. The silence tells me that people have not even considered looking at this.
Yeah, maybe.
I look at it.
Sometimes it's depend on the amount we pay, we focus more on the email.
No, so most people don't read most people just see PayPal here or somebody's name here. Very rarely people, firstly, the email clients don't show them the email address in full. Secondly, you got to do extra steps to click and see what the email address is. And thirdly, we trust what is shown here in the from field. The most apparent ones are, at least if you see the email address here, it is PayPal-Australia. It is wrong. It's not PayPal Australia. Okay. But that said, is it even the right sender's email ID that's being shown here? You don't even know that, because email systems have a way of using a display name and the actual sender is hidden inside. And unless you take extra steps, you cannot see who the sender is. Now, it is the job of a good email server to mark such emails as spam. Unfortunately, many email servers, people who run their own mail services and their own mail servers, they do not run all the up-to-date things. And the end result is what should have been classified as spam does not get classified as spam and instead comes into your regular inbox and you don't see the email ID. Even if you see the spoofed email ID. So that is problem one. So you trust what you see here. The second one is, of course, the text and all that sometimes can be very easy giveaways. But let me take you to this kind of an email, right? You get this email, right? National Aluminium Company, Go Green, CDSLindia.com, blah, blah, blah. So many shares, XYZ. And then you see this link. More details of the said offer are available at the following links. And you see BSE India. Does this look, or it says HTTPS, NSE India corporates, blah, blah, blah. So is this an insecure link?
One is HTTP, one the other is HTTPS. One may think
Okay, I don't
that
click on the HTTP. I click on the HTTPS. Hello.
yeah, we don't know.
Yeah,
We don't know.
you
I
don't
would
know.
never.
You don't know, right? You would not distrust this link. Am I fair? Am I right in saying so?
Yeah. I may trust because it says nseindia.com.
Right? Okay. In this case, of course, I have right now chosen the HTTP link, but it's not necessary that only the HTTP link should be so. Do you know that what is shown on your email text, the underlying link need not be what it seems. If you hover on top of that link with your mouse, some of the email clients will tell you where it actually goes. Okay, so if you see this PayPal thing, if you click on this login in your account now, if you hover on that link, you will see http:// something something something. The catch is A, your email client doesn't show you the link. B, you do not know that you can hover and see this. And you should be seeing the link before you click on it. Many times you're advised to copy paste the link rather than click on it. How many of you have copy pasted links then click on it? I doubt people copy paste links.
We generally copy paste when we don't want to close this existing window. We want to retain it. So we copy paste into a new window.
Yeah, but then you also do long press. Most of you are seeing things on a phone these days. You go there, click on that link, do long press, and then say open in another tab. So before you click, before you went to the other place, you are not even conscious where it might take you. So going back here, right? So phishing is the number one entry point, and we are unaware of that entry. We are unaware that we are committing something that will be causing us difficulty and pain. The second part is, of course, sometimes user error is very predominant. And then when you click, it takes you to a website from where your browser runs some hidden code. The problem is most modern browsers run what is called as JavaScript to make the page look very interactive. JavaScript comes with a lot of hidden code that you cannot see, and that hidden code can cause the browser to do more activity than what you think you're doing. And then it brings in malware. And once the malware comes in, then of course, the next steps happen. We will come to those. End result is a theft. So once malware comes in, of course, today we know the cost of ransomware. This is slightly legacy data. People pay up, unfortunately, and people pay up because they do not have backups. They do not maintain backups, and there's no way for them to retrieve their data. And they end up thinking that let's pay and get out. But in some cases where the ransomware propagator is actually trying to say, I'm going to shame you by publishing the data online, then possibly there's no way but to pay up. And big companies have paid up. Okay, millions of dollars have been paid up, and in some cases the millions have been retrieved. So the point is, none of this is actually so there is a so we went through this can you recognize thing, right? None of this is actually targeted at individuals. Very rarely is it targeted. Instead, a lot of it is automated. When I say automated, there is a big industry which is, I call it ransomware as a service. Your email IDs are all that is required. And then if your profile is available to them, they can generate customized emails. They can lure you by sending emails to click on links on websites, and finally you get compromised. You need not get compromised if you take certain steps, and we'll see about those in a little while. But end of the day, you end up getting phished, and there are different categories of phishing, and finally malware gets in. So let's look at a couple of more things. When you actually land up at a website, right? Is this a State Bank of India website?
It looks similar.
So it's not a State Bank of India website
It's not original.
because it's totally different. The website is KOTHSPA, something like that. Looks like a foreign website. Yes.
Okay. But what if it just said SBI.com? Is SBI.com the State Bank of India website?
No, it is co.in.
And it is online SBI.
See, even within the community here, folks are not clear what is the State Bank of India website. So bottom line is this, that we are not paying attention. It is onlinesbi.com. But when it says onlinesbi.com, do you know that there are characters in the character set that look like I and it's not actually I? So that online, that I need not be I. It can look like an I for you, but actually it's not online SBI. It's another site. Very fine detail. So the character set that is used to represent the website is more than the English alphanumerals that we are familiar with. And there can be other characters which look like SBI, which look like the English numerals, but they are not. There is an extended character set that can be used. So in this case, of course, it was very blatant, but still I was waiting to see how many of you pick it up. So I have a few examples like this, where the site is actually not, the simple thing is on the URL. But more sophisticated examples exist where it is not the site that you think it should be. So when you get phished, A, you're not able to recognize the link is right, or this is the right link or not. Next, you're not able to recognize, are you at the right site? Are you at the right place? So you end up getting phished, and then you invite malware in. So let's talk about what should you do to protect. So we talked about antivirus. We talked about not clicking. We talked about going to secure, insecure, or not going to insecure links. But by the way, HTTPS does not guarantee that the site is wrong. HTTPS does not guarantee that the site does not contain malicious stuff. HTTPS guarantees only one thing, that the site that you're visiting is the site it claims to be. It just gives guarantee to you that you're actually visiting the guarantee anything more than that. It does not say that the content on the site is secure. It does not say of course, transaction between that site and your laptop is protected, is encrypted. So nobody in between can see anything. If people tap traffic in between, they will not be able to decipher what is it that's being transacted. But is the site containing content that is safe? There is no guarantee. So the security does not extend beyond the guarantee that the site is the site that you wanted to visit. So what do the experts advise that you should do to protect yourself? So I heard some things like we should run antivirus. People are not running. I heard HTTPS. We should not click links. Anything else?
Not use public internet if you're not sure of what kind of data they can collect from the Wi-Fi network. So don't use network
Absolutely.
anywhere.
That is correct. So don't go to don't join hotspots. Okay. You're safer with your 4G than joining unknown Wi-Fi access points. Okay. I still don't hear some very fundamental things. Okay, let's move on to seeing what are the most common recommendations. And these recommendations, by the way, that I'm putting up, of course, I agree with all of them, but these are coming from some really good places. This is a guy called Brian Krebs. He's a big time consultant on security matters. He's called in for breach analysis and all that globally. He runs a site called krebsonsecurity.com, and he has 3 simple rules. Rule number 1, if you didn't go looking for it, don't install it. Meaning, don't install things that are pushed at you because you clicked somewhere unknowingly. You are doing X activity. Like, for example, most often these days on mobile phones, this is what happens. People think that they are trying to do a UPI payment, and the opposite guy says, please do this. This is the new method of payment. And he says, click on this link and then do something. And then there is a new software that will get installed, and then that will do better payment, blah, blah, blah. And people go and do all that. And at the end of the day, they hand over their bank account to the guy who's directing them. So don't install things that you did not go looking for. Okay. Number 2, if you installed it, update it. How many of you ensure your software, operating system, applications are all up to date?
No, we don't.
Anybody wants to counter that?
We do, just because of IT person. We need things
Okay.
which supports latest version. That's why we have to update.
Okay. One person says so. Who else?
No,
Anybody else wants to say so?
On the phone apps we do not update.
Okay. Anybody else want to volunteer? Okay. So if you ask me, this is my number 1 rule. This is my number 1 rule, that ensure everything is up to date. If you installed it, update it. Okay. And now you come back here. Is your printer running the latest software? Is your CCTV running the latest software?
No.
Is your smart TV running the latest software? When was the last time that your smart TV prompted you to update itself? How many of these are update friendly?
Yeah, it is coming regularly, that updation in the smart
Yes,
TV.
yes, it is coming.
So we do regularly.
Okay. What about your other devices? Okay, smart TV, it's prompting you. I'm sure there are other smart devices in the house, smart devices in
Yeah,
the office.
like Alexa, it is not saying that let update me.
What about your network switch? When was the last time that you updated your Wi-Fi router?
No, we haven't. In the office, have we done recently?
Yeah,
No, in the office, I'm saying.
No, I don't think so, sir.
only replacement, sir, in the office.
So all of us. So you remember this slide? It said legacy systems, right? The threat is we have ton load of legacy systems running in our networks, and those are not getting updated. So you might wonder, hey, why is this guy hammering away on all these kinds of devices? How are they so relevant? They don't talk to the internet. What's the big deal? How about if I tell you and take you back to that incident that happened where 500,000 CCTV cameras were used to launch a denial of service attack? How did that happen? Well, the way it happened is somebody realized that, hello, a lot of these devices are getting installed without changing their default admin password. How many of you have changed the default admin password for these passive devices? Your Wi-Fi router, in the office, at home?
No,
Do
not at
you?
all.
Huh?
No,
Sir,
we
never.
haven't done it for years.
Yeah, yeah.
So none of you do this. Now imagine that I have a malware that, due to my stupidity, comes on my laptop. How long do you think it takes for that malware to find out what are all the devices in the network? Oh, there is a printer there. Oh, there is a CCTV. And its password has not changed. Okay, let me log in. That malware logs into that and it figures out what software version is running on it. And then it knows that this software has this weakness. It fetches malicious payload from some protected website, pushes that payload firmware, which is now a new firmware, into your Wi-Fi router, and reboots your Wi-Fi router with a new firmware. And now that new firmware has malware that is running and doing malicious stuff. Do you think this is science fiction that I'm talking? No
Definitely a
answer?
possibility. Definitely a possibility, yes. Thank you.
Definitely a possibility. It has been done. 500,000 of these have been used to launch DDoS attacks in the world. You know, there was a famous attack in Bangladesh Bank. Central Bank of Bangladesh lost $80 million. The vulnerability was in a network switch. Through that network switch vulnerability, they installed malware on the switch and somewhere else, and then they created a Swift server. They created a new Swift server, a temporary new Swift server. which initiated a transaction taking away from the central bank, moving money to New York overnight and from New York to Philippines and so on. They lost $80 million over a weekend. The attack took place in kind of 8 hours or something like that. But the way the attack happened, somebody's machine got infected. In turn, malware brought in. That malware exploited a switch. And then from that switch, it got installed and created other devices. All this happened over months and nobody realized. The point is, there was vulnerable software running on this laptop. There were vulnerable switches in the network that they did not keep up to date. And finally, the attack took place. The initial entry was not targeted. The initial entry is never targeted. The initial entry happens through user stupidity, through carelessness, through user error. They click on something, malware comes in. The old-fashioned malware action of bringing a PC down is gone. The new form is the malware remains silent. And then it moves to other machines. It finds out what are all the other exploitable devices in the network and what is there to harvest. And once it gets into one machine, the malware maintains communication with its quote unquote operator. Operator could be in any country. And the operator's dashboard will say there is a malware that has now taken root in one of the devices in one of the networks. The operator decides which network it is. Is it a high value network or not? If it is a high value network, the operator ensures the malware stays alive in that network by first spreading that malware across other devices and keeping it running. And then he plans, he does what is called as reconnaissance, figures out what are all the other elements in the network, and then they plan the attack slowly. But the initial entry happened randomly. But subsequent actions that happen are based on the target, based on the victim, based on who is the operator at the other end. So in the case, if the malware lands up in a bank, then it is very carefully manipulated, very carefully orchestrated. Are you all aware of an attack in Cosmos Bank where they lost 90 crores?
Yeah, we heard about it.
You know what happened? You know how did the genesis of that attack? What are the steps that happened?
No.
So somehow a vulnerable machine, user stupidity brought in the malware. The malware then stayed inside the computer, and as the user moved around, it ensured that it understood, the operator understood, the remote operator understood that there is a bank and this is the infrastructure in the bank. They created a virtual ATM server. These days, most of you are familiar with virtual machines, right? So most organizations run pools of virtual machines as servers. So they launched a new virtual server which was running the ATM software. They ensured that over a weekend, a large pool of ATM machines in Maharashtra were directed to use that server. They had their human operators go to these ATM machines, and they had also distributed SBI cards. They had targeted SBI cards with certain number ranges. And when those SBI cards were swiped, The ATM machine just dispense money without actually checking the account or whether there's money or not. The bank lost 90 crores. End user's account didn't get wiped out. So end result is malware comes in. Malware comes in because if you installed it, update it is not being practiced. The number one reason why malware comes in is because there is a piece of software that is exploitable. Software has bugs. All software has bugs. The problem is we do not know in what ways those bugs can be excited and what's the cost of those bugs. What's the consequences if those bugs are, for us, the most obvious symptom of a bug is that, hey, the desired functionality didn't work. But there are ways by which some bugs can be exploited. Have you all heard of this thing called buffer overflow attack?
Yes, sir.
Can you talk about it a little bit?
Is it? It's a duplicate of same data more than the existing size of that particular system. For example, memory is the 10 KB, then there is some file which generate multiple copy and it gets over or like above that memory.
Okay. And then what happens?
Hang system and all these things.
Okay. Anybody else wants to add something? Okay. Buffer overflow attack is very simple. In all programming languages, there are variables that are used to capture various pieces of information data. It could be a username, it could be a web link or whatever. Programmers set aside some amount of memory to hold that variable's content. But if extra content is pushed into that storage, that extra variable data overrides into some other memory, and then by careful orchestration, it is possible that that extra memory that is being used up is actually carrying instructions, it's not carrying data. And the program that is manipulating this data can be caused to execute the instructions in that extra data. I will not go into how all that can happen, but that's how what they call as remote code execution is triggered. So remote code execution is the manner in which malware gets in. Basically, you send data that is larger than what the variable was designed to hold, and then some of it becomes instructions for execution. And once that executes,
Raghu, a little bit of time check with others. This is very interesting topic, and if we go on for a few more minutes, is it okay with everybody?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So in fact, I feel that the subject is very deep and vast. We would like to have one more session from sir. Not able to cover in this 1 hour. Very interesting, sir. Actually.
okay, so we'll think of a session 2 later, but for now, I have 2 more slides. So I'll just go through them. So basically, you have buffer overflow attacks that install malware, and it happened all because the software did not protect against these things from happening. So there was a bug in the software that got exploited. And the only way you can take care of these problems is you have to keep your software up to date. So if you installed it, update it. Ensure that everything is up to date. And last one, if you no longer need it, remove it. Because any piece of software running in your system that you are not using regularly is a honeypot, is a piece that can invite trouble. Many of us get mobile phones with preloaded apps. This preloaded app industry is a big big problem that we are not focusing on. And I'm in some other forums where I'm fighting with the regulators to say we should not have preloaded software. But the phone vendors are up in arms and trying to ensure that the regulation does not go through. End users should have a choice, we say, that they are not forced to have software on the phone that they don't want. My rule is not to install any software and use a browser as much as possible. But if I am forced to install a software, then I use it for a limited period of time. So removing software should be made possible, but unfortunately on many budget Android phones, it's impossible to remove clutter. At least on your laptops, ensure that you're not carrying software that's not needed. And if you're carrying it, ensure that it's updated. Let's move to some other recommendations. This is from the US government. Start with turning on multi-factor authentication. Look at their second recommendation. They are not saying run antivirus. Update your software. In fact, turn on automatic software updates if they are available. Think before you click. Use strong passwords. If you notice, 4 things that you can do to keep yourself cyber safe. No talk about antivirus. High value on multi-factor authentication and update your software. Finally, I have a cheat sheet. This cheat sheet is very detailed. Devote at least 5% of your annual IT budget to security. Have a risk management regime. What this means is you have to take a holistic view of your infrastructure and make sure of what are all the risks that are possible if anything gets compromised, and understanding the risk profile of every device and every connectivity, every internal accesses and so on. And for that, you need money. Invest time in training your staff. Let me ask you, let's say you're all in working and suddenly one person's computer shows up that it has got infected due to ransomware. What do you think should be the first few steps that people take? As soon as the person detects that he's got infected, what all should happen? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
We only
No
inform
comment?
we only inform the admin. That's it.
That's true.
So you will notice that there is no training and there is no predetermined action standard operating procedure. This thing called incident management is just because of this. We do not have an incident management regime. We do not prescribe an incident management regime. So rule number 1 is if you got infected, disconnect from the network. Number 1 thing, immediately pull out the network cable. Immediately shut down Wi-Fi. And then disconnect every device from the network. Last weekend, I was in some remote area and one of my friends called me and said, and he had difficulty reaching me. And then he said, we got infected with ransomware. Our data is all encrypted. So the first thing I said is, have you disconnected from your network? Have you taken out everything from the network? And then I asked him, do you have a backup? So he said, I have a 2-month-old backup. So we don't have training in place. We don't train our people to recognize We don't train our people to understand when they are looking at links or when they visiting websites, when they are loading software, what are all the precautions they must take, and we don't train them when an incident happens, what they must do. So this is actually in our company, everybody is supposed to take a test every 6 months. Every 6 months we take a test, and which means that there is a budget that is set aside for this managing this risk. Control, monitor, and update who has access to what data. Manage user privileges. So, sorry, there's a typo there. Control user privileges. So we do not consider that we must ensure data protection by regulating who has access to what. In fact, we think that the boss at the top, the managing director, must have implicit access to everything. Nothing can be farther from the truth. The boss just needs access to a few dashboards and reports. He doesn't need access to any of the other databases. He should have the lowest privilege. We have a problem with passwords. How many of you share passwords for any admin activity? I'm sure there is a common admin password that everybody knows. The reason we do that is we find it difficult to administer machines with user privileges correctly set. That means we find it difficult to say Raghu and Harish are both administrators, but they will not use a standard admin user account. They will use their respective accounts, and those respective accounts will be given privilege of administrator type. Instead, we say, oh, Harish and Raghu, here's the admin password, take it. So we share passwords. We do not manage privileges. We have a very bad password regime. In our company, we have to change password every three months, and passwords have to be last 12 passwords cannot be reused. Passwords have to be at least 16 characters long, and there are various other conditions. So password policies are not enforced at many places. Make sure computers and phones have a password that automatically gets enabled after 5 minutes of being idle. Control and check as frequently as possible that your IT environment has been updated with the latest long-term stable guarantee support software. So now, if you imagine that you have hundreds of people, thousands of people and hundreds of offices, let us say, how do you guarantee that everybody is running the latest software? How do you guarantee that everything is up to date? Is it manually possible? How do you guarantee your Wi-Fi routers have secure configuration, that the default passwords are all removed, that there is... So all of these steps, you need automation, and that automation means additional tools, that automation means additional budget. Then comes network security. Most people think of network security as just preventing hackers from coming in. Well, hackers come in not because from outside in. They come because you go out and fetch them in. So we have very poor regime on preventing external access. From inside the office, everything outside is accessible to everybody. We think that only outside in access has to be prevented. We don't think of regulating access from inside to out. For example, if I go to this first slide, does my printer need to talk to Google? Does it have to go and access Gmail ever?
No.
It need not. But anywhere in the network, does the network administrator install a policy that says this should not have access to Gmail? In fact, he will think, what's the problem? It's a printer. Why should I monitor it?
Yeah.
Right? So we look at everything outside in, but we don't look inside out. Install, enable, update antivirus and anti-malware on every employee's computer. Enforce removable media controls. Audit your IT environment through external and professional experts. I doubt many people do this. We have to get independent third parties to come and conduct an audit. Similarly, insist on using a VPN when doing mobile or home activity, working from home. Do not make your office network available without a VPN. Restrain your IT environment. By that, I mean the main core server environment and all that, where your data is actually stored, to be only accessible from dedicated machines inside your network, not from anywhere. Finally, set up an adequate insurance policy. So, I mean, we could go into each of this and there's a lot that can be discussed, but this is a high level cheat sheet. And with that, I come to my formal talk, open for Q&A.
Sir, my first question is how we can update our devices like a printer.
So they all have admin consoles. You can log into them and then force an update to happen.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
We didn't know that it is happening.
All of them have these days. Anything that is having an IP access, IP address through which you print, there is a management console that is available on that same IP address. You can go and update it.
Okay, you mean to say whatever device we purchase and we want to update it, we have to go to that website and put our
The device has a management website.
Okay.
On the device, not the company's website. On the device, there is a way to log in, and then there is a way to
update it.
Make it update itself.
Okay. Thank you so much.
So shall we assume that all of you are cyber safe now?
No, we have far more questions to ask.
The subject is like a samundar, sir.
Yeah.
Ah.
So we will probably not be able to do justice today.
Yeah.
We will first. What I will request Raghu is to give us do's and don'ts for the small business. Number one. Number two, for personal devices like what do you call printer.
No, hello.
TV.
The cheat sheet is the cheat sheet is in front of you.
Yeah, is it enough?
Yes.
For
if you practice this diligently, let me tell you, right? If you practice this diligently, let me tell you, you're fairly safe.
Okay.
But the challenge is in practicing it.
Yeah. And you're saying this is more essential than the malware, than the antivirus.
Look at where antivirus comes in. Number 9.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Okay.
And look at what this guy said. He didn't even talk about antivirus.
Yeah, he's not talking. Yeah.
Right? So antivirus at a certain point in the evolution was I call antivirus as bandage, and not updating your software as carrying a disease.
Yeah.
Antivirus is external bandage, and this is internal bleeding.
Sir, I have question. There are some attacks that possible due to the update in that software. So, if more,
Come again?
there are attacks that happen due to updates in software. We are not sure every time the updation will give the proper.
Why not? Are you using genuine software?
Okay, if it's license version and okay, got it.
Right? If you're not using genuine software, then I cannot talk about the guarantees of whether it is getting updated from the right place.
Right, sir.
And then, so while I will talk about one case where there was a malware attack, ransomware attack in 2017, where uh, the attackers actually what they did was they targeted the update site, the site where updates are maintained for a particular brand of software, and they infiltrated that software's update server. Okay, this happened. This happened in Ukraine, and that site distributed infected updates. In which case, the protection for you is that you have backups. That you have backups, and your backups are regular, and your backups are safe. So, in our industry, we use the term defense in depth. So, defense in depth is ensuring that we have multiple layers of protection. So, for example, even if I could not update my software or I got maliciously updated, if I prevent, remember when I was talking, I said most of the time these days, the malware that comes in ultimately communicates with a remote operator on the internet. So I also said that we think of preventing outside in access. We don't think of preventing inside out access. So if I practice adequate safety in preventing inside out access or regulating inside out access, even if the machine gets infected, chances of it reaching out to a malware operator outside get minimized, because I have ensured it is not reaching arbitrary websites. There are what are called as whitelist domains. So if my firewall is configured correctly with whitelisted domains access, then I know that my devices cannot reach unnecessary websites. So I block access to unknown sites at my firewall for inside out access also. So yes, if in the random chance that I have some software whose update site itself got compromised and my device got compromised, the first level of compromise might have taken place, but the second level will not happen. It will not spread. I contain the risk. So there are various other steps, defense in depth. When I say it is to ensure in this cheat sheet, if you practice most of it, I think you will, even in the random chance that some infection does come in, the damage is minimized.
I think we will end it here, and we'll request Mr. Iyer to probably take another session one more time maybe, and we'll share this cheat sheet that he has given us. Rajesh, will you do the honors?
Yes, sir, sure. Actually, we all got so much engrossed in this today's session, sir. And frankly speaking, for us so far, this security and only thing what we get the messages through WhatsApp and general social media is that do not share your passwords, do not share your OTPs, and that's all. We do it and we are safe. That was what the impression general public have. But in today's topic, we got to know a lot more in detail about what all care we can take, and this is a really helpful session for all of us, definitely, sir. On behalf of the Channel team, entire team, and the management, I thank you for sparing such a valuable time today and enlightening us on this today's on the different topic, which is the need of today's day-to-day operations and activities. We thank you, sir, for joining this session, and as I said, we'd like to have you again maybe sometime in future with some more details on this.
Yeah, I thank you for giving me the opportunity. And like I said, I like to take these opportunities to convey to the rest what they have to do to ensure. I hope that with these sessions, more people are aware and cyber aware, and they take the required precautions. Because finally, like I said, training and education is important, and unfortunately, this is not formally taught.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thanks, Raghu. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you,
Welcome.
everyone, for joining today's session. We'll meet again on next Saturday. Thank you. We can close this.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Learn about cheat sheet also.
Yeah, I'll share this presentation with Harish.
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.